Hey, we made a change to Tacklebox and you might like it. It's been a lot of work on our end, but now Tacklebox is a 3-month program. 90 days to get your business up and out. Start whenever you'd like. A step-by-step path, 6 coaching calls to push you forward, and right now, 20% off with code WINTER2025. Give your idea a shot. On to it. Today, we're doing the first in a series of end-of-year, let's call them Actionable Motivation episodes. Today is a holiday cocktail with 1 part motivation and 2 parts tangible methods that'll actually help you translate that motivation into something real. A perfect combo for this time of year. The Moscow Mule of podcasts. And we've got a lofty goal. We are going to help you reach your potential. We'll get some help from Martin Scorsese and Anne Lamott and A Bronx Tale and short assignments and shitty drafts along the way. But we'll start with where you are right now. How to actually take a swing at your potential. You're a take stock of your life at the end of year type of person because of course you are. You're listening to this podcast. We are a reflective bunch. Maybe you do this through an email you boomerang to yourself every December 28th with goals and questions and predictions like I do. Maybe your kink is those end-of-year review templates that LinkedIn Thought Boys post and force you to comment on before they try and sell you creatine gummies. Or maybe you just make a list of stuff you really want to happen in 2026 and you throw it into the fire on New Year's Eve as the ball drops. Whatever it is, you're making a huge mistake. I know this not because I'm some life expert, but because I'm an expert on people taking stock of their lives. Tacklebox is ground zero for people taking stock of their lives. We get a bunch of you every January who have decided that this is the year you start a company and reach your potential, and I love you for that. The desire to meet your potential is one of the qualities I most admire in a person. But you still make the mistake we'll start with today. As humans, when we decide it's time to change, our instinct is to add a gym membership or a coach or better running shoes or a morning meditation routine. Humans fix things by adding to them. It's how we think we grow. The problem is that our instincts, as usual, are wrong. The best, only way to add to your future life is to subtract from the current one. An old friend of mine named Wayne, who's maybe the smartest person I've ever met and certainly the best designer, lives by the phrase edit to amplify. He uses it in every context of his life, and that is the key here. When you audit your life and decide you want something new, the first step is to remove what doesn't serve you anymore. The way to do this is a very useful question. Knowing what I know now, would I choose to do this again? Ask this question about the things that take up the most time in your life. Start with your job. Knowing what you know now, not what you knew when you took the job 6 years ago, but what you know now, would you take it again? Would you apply today happily for the job you currently have if you were out of work? If the answer is yes or even, probably, it's not necessarily the thing you want to change first. But if you shudder at the thought of applying for your current job, well, next, ask that question about your hobbies and the chat groups you're in and Disney Plus and your partner. Knowing what I know now, would I choose to do this again? Remove stuff that doesn't serve you, edit to amplify. And now that we've helped you make some space to add, we need to talk about the 2 most effective ways to actually make progress on something as big and hairy and wicked and overwhelming as reaching your potential. And you know what? Let's do it after some super quick jazz because it kind of all goes together and I don't want to break it up. Hey, we've changed Tacklebox a bit. It's taken a long time, but we did it. It is now a 3-month program built to help you test, build, and decide on an idea before you quit your job. 90 days to get something up and out and find out if anyone cares. We'll give you a clear path and 6 coaching sessions along the way. It's 20% off now at gettacklebox.com with code WINTER2025. Let's build some stuff, huh? Back to it. Short assignments and shitty drafts. Okay, back to the 2 ways for you to actually make progress on something big and hairy, which are pulled directly from me trying to make progress on something big and hairy. I've been writing a novel on the side the past couple of months, which has required a ton of Tackleboxy type of time management and accountability levers. So far, the best tool has been joining my town's local writers' workshop, and it's not close. If you're trying to write, start with that. It's also required a bunch of learning. Writing a novel is different from anything I've ever done, so I had to build myself a curriculum. And not surprisingly, a lot of the tools writers use to get something as gangly and multi-tentacled as a book out into the world are useful for entrepreneurs too. It's all framed differently for writers, but it translates. My favorite resource on writing so far is Anne Lamott's Bird by Bird. It is mandatory for writers and pretty close to that for entrepreneurs. I'll put it in the show notes. Lamott talks a lot about the invisible barriers that keep people from writing books, mostly the same barriers that keep people from starting businesses. She lists 2 practices that help with how intimidating a fresh idea can be, and each are so relevant and useful, we're going to go through them now. Short assignments and shitty drafts. And because why not, we'll put these into practice with a fake startup idea I've been pitched weekly at Tacklebox for the last 3 months, and it simply could not be solving a bigger or hairier or more intimidating problem. It is an AI tool that helps people in their 30s and 40s maintain or deepen friendships and stave off loneliness and depression. What do you do when you sit down at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday for day one of hoping to make a dent in maybe the problem of our generation? You start by looking at a 1-inch picture frame. Short assignments and the 1-inch picture frame. Lamott describes the overwhelmed feeling of sitting down and trying to tackle a massive book topic like, say, the history of women and how paralyzing it can be. But she has a tool that helps, a 1-inch picture frame that sits on her desk. This reminds her to find a 1-inch piece of a story to tell, one small scene, one memory, one exchange. She says that this 1-inch reminder makes a dent in the tremendous sense of being overwhelmed and often gives her writing students hope. I've lived by the 1-inch picture frame since I heard about it, drawing a 1-inch picture frame on a Post-it and putting it on my monitor. When I'm overwhelmed with the novel, I think about one scene. How would my main character act in a coffee shop? Or how would he answer the phone when a telemarketer calls? I could write that. And then those scenes build into something real. And I know we talk about this all the time at Tacklebox, about building tests and sprints and niching down and focusing and all of that, but this framing, pun, feels far more approachable, and that's the quality your work needs on day one. So what's this look like for the AI for Friendships startup? And by the way, if you have this idea, I'm certainly not discouraging it. I love it. Join Tacklebox. We've got a few people working on it, but there are 10,000 flavors of it, an unending need, and lots of customer segments to go after. This is a market that needs hundreds and hundreds of solutions, not one. Anyway, what is the 1-inch picture frame? For startups, I've found it's easier to think of the picture frame as a single question you'd really like the answer to. With any startup, there will be a list of questions you need answers to before you can build a useful product when you start. So start there. What is one of those critical questions? If you're helping 40-year-olds keep up with their friends, then maybe a good question to start with is, how do 40-year-olds keep up with their friends? Great, but it certainly isn't fitting into a 1-inch picture frame. ChatGPT tells me there are 2.2 to 2.5 million 40-year-olds in the US alone, and they are not squeezing into a photo the size of your thumbnail. So maybe, how do 40-year-olds in your town keep up with their friends? Getting closer, but ChatGPT estimates that my town alone has 1,100 40-year-olds, still not fitting in the picture frame. So maybe, how do your actual friends keep in touch, or the friends of your friends, to keep the feedback at arm's length? Or how do people who live in a town that isn't driving distance from the place they grew up keep up with their friends? Or expats? The 1-inch picture has room for maybe 1 or 2 people to speak with. So the goal for the day should be to talk to 1 person, or maybe 2, and learn about their process. Then you do that. You figure out how to speak with 1 person a day, which is a lot more approachable than speaking with 1,100. And maybe they tell you that they have a group chat, but they rarely get together with those people, even though they talk about it all the time and they'd love to do it. Great. The next day, you've got some options for your 1-inch picture frame. What question do you want to tackle? There are 2 that come to mind based on your conversation from the day before. First, do other people feel the same way as the person you spoke about? And second, if you plan something for this person who claimed that the barrier keeping them from getting together with their friends was the actual logistics of planning, would they actually do it? If I decide to answer question 1, my path is easy. Find another person and speak with them. But if you're feeling sassy and want to get to the second question, you've got a path there too. And the 1-inch picture frame gets more important, because now the activity you plan has to fit inside it. You can't have all of these people go to Madison Square Garden to watch the Rangers play in 3 months, but you can organize a game night on Zoom or a Friday lunch if they're all in the same area. This brings us back to my absolute favorite quote by E.L. Doctorow about driving at night. You never see further than your headlights, but you can make the whole trip that way. Now, here's where there's a difference between startups and writing a book. There are going to be opportunities to do things at scale when you're doing a startup. I just wrote a post about the to-do list monster, which I'll pop in the show notes, and teaches you how to think bigger. But early days, the game is granular. Make something intimidating manageable by putting it into a 1-inch picture frame. Which brings us to what to do with all those short assignments once you start producing them. Which also means we've got to talk about Martin Scorsese. Shitty drafts. The second tip from Anne Lamott reminds me of a story a good friend of mine told about one of his first days at NYU Film School. Martin Scorsese had come in to speak, and a student asked him what he would do to get the most out of film school if he were sitting in the same seats as the students. He responded that every great writer or director has 200 bad films in them, and you've got to get those out before you get to anything good. So, he said, he'd spend his time producing as many of those 200 as he could. If you're, say, trying to come up with a customer acquisition strategy for your lonely 40-year-olds, your first idea will probably be social media focused. Instagram ads or a LinkedIn boosted post or something like that. Then maybe you'll think about where you can find those people in person, and on and on. Each idea will get you closer to something unique and specific and something that'll actually work. The thinking for each is about reps. Most people don't ever make 200 films or come up with 7 customer acquisition strategies. And that means that most people generally create stuff that's the same. My first 5 ideas are going to be very similar to your first 5 ideas. The interesting stuff comes after a bunch of reps. Anne Lamott says the same about writing. Your first draft of anything isn't going to be good, and it probably won't ever be read by anyone, so that's fine. The goal is to just get it out, so that you can see if there's anything interesting in there, and then you can expand on that. She says you might write 10 pages on day 1, then go and read it day 2 and realize there's a paragraph in there with something really interesting. Maybe the rest is garbage, but that one paragraph you can work with. You can expand on it. And the next day, maybe you'll write a bunch of more shitty pages, but maybe there's an exchange between customers you keep. Our best founders have always been the most prolific, the ones that aren't precious with every action. That's not to say you can be flippant with your customers' time or their trust. That is an absolute disaster. It's more that you can run lots of these little 1-inch picture frame tests and see what comes from them. So if we speak with a handful of 40-year-olds looking to keep up with their friends and realize that, yeah, maybe it does make sense for us to take scheduling off their plate. So we decide to schedule something for these people every other week. What is the absolute fastest version of this? How can we make this one of the 200 tests we'll need before we get to a product that's actually impactful and useful? The reps are what's important, so how do we condense them? The first 10 attempts at anything, product, customer interviews, customer acquisition, investor pitches, they're all going to be shitty. You have to optimize for getting lots of reps to get those out so that you can get to something interesting. The end. Calogero. My son has decided he's a 2 a.m. guy. This is a real problem because neither me nor my wife are really 2 a.m. people. The other day, I was up with him while he was drinking a bottle and watching the snow, and I turned on YouTube TV and got suggested A Bronx Tale. If you're wondering, I'd go Bronx Tale, Goodfellas, Donnie Brasco, and Godfather in that order for my mafia movies Mount Rushmore. And I know Godfather 4th is heresy, but it's the holidays. You got to be honest. It's 4th. Anyway, my son and I joined at the very best part. Robert De Niro is with his son, Calogero, who asks if he has the talent to play for the Yankees. De Niro says he has the talent to do anything he wants as long as he acts right. But if he doesn't, nothing will happen. And then he delivers the quote, "The saddest thing in life is wasted talent." It's powerful at 5 p.m. alone on a Tuesday, but holding my son in the middle of the night, it was a real moment. I think this is really what all the outreach around January 1st is about. A bunch of humans who look back at their year and maybe aren't sure they're reaching their potential and really want to. That's something I feel all the time, and it's heavy. It's tough to deal with. But I think these 3 tactics will help no matter what you're looking to do. First, remove to add. Edit to amplify. Your life is already full, so ask the question, knowing what I know now, would I choose to do this again? Next, short assignments. Break everything into the 1-inch picture frame version to make it less intimidating. And finally, get going on the shitty drafts. Don't be precious with your early work because it almost certainly isn't the work that's going to differentiate you. That's 200 movies in. And have a great week. I'll see you after the holiday when we'll floor it on how to start a startup in 2026. This was the Idea to Startup podcast brought to you by Tacklebox, which is now a 3-month program to get your idea up and out before you quit your job. Head to gettacklebox.com and join today. You can use code WINTER2025 to get 20% off.